Welcome to Stop the Fight. And this week, we're talking Canelo and Yildrim, we're talking Lomachenko-Haney, and we're going to talk about Parker parting ways with Kevin Barry.
Don't brag about taking my side piece. Don't brag about taking my side piece, though.
I broke my back. Back is broken. Spinal.
All right, saw Canelo. So, it was a bad fight. I mean, it was a mismatch. Canelo did what he needed to do, and he needed to take the fight. We should stop lamenting over this. We should stop hating on Canelo. He needed this fight. The mandatory's out the way, and now we get Billy Joe Saunders. Now, the actual fight, I mean, there's not much to say. Canelo was faster, he was stronger, but he was smaller. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Canelo is a small 168-pounder. Now, I think Yildrim, let me see. Yeah, he landed only 11 punches. 11. That's pretty bad. I mean, we're talking less than 4 punches a round, 3 rounds, right? Yikes. But again, this is the level that Canelo fought. And you expect this kind of performance from Canelo. You do expect it. I mean, I think I saw maybe 1 or 2 jabs like cleanly land by Yildrim, but it was he shouldn't have been in the ring. He didn't have the power. You know, you saw, I think he had 22 fights with like 11 knockouts or something like that, 2 defeats. You know, you see that he doesn't have the power to really do anything in the ring. And you were hearing the DAZN commentary team, which is, yeah, they were saying stuff like, oh, you know, he's got to go out on a shield or blah, blah, blah. It's like he's got 11 knockouts. Guys, he's not that kind of puncher. This isn't an undefeated, hungry puncher that's going to go out on his feet. Like you saw with Kovalev and Yard, right? Yard was undefeated at that time. He kept coming forward until he got stopped by Kovalev. Why? Because this guy hasn't tasted defeat. Yildrim, he's tasted defeat. He knows what his power is like. He knows what his aptitude is like for boxing. He had no shot. He took his money, which is the smart thing to do, of course, and he retired on a stool.
Go to town! Go to
town! Yeah. Now, was it the bravest performance? Of course not. But it's one that secures your future, maybe gets you a house, you come home safe, and you get to tell your kids a story about how you fought one of the best pound-for-pound fighters of your time. And I think Canelo is the pound-for-pound fighter right now, number one. Why? You know, you got Lomachenko, who just took a loss, close fight, but a loss, and, well, Crawford, he's really got to fight somebody. And those are really the 3 guys, or the 2 guys that will be ahead of him. So you got Canelo as your pound-for-pound number 1, and that's what Yildrim is going to say. I fought the best fighter in the world at that time, and yes, I lost. Yeah, it didn't look good, but, you know, I wasn't a highlight KO. You know, Amir Khan can't say that. That dude was flattened. So, you know, again, you can't really fault Yildrim, and nor can you fault Canelo. He has a mandatory. He took care of that mandatory. Now we get better fights, bigger fights. We get Billy Joe. And the Billy Joe fight, you know, say what you want about Billy Joe. Yeah, he fights to his level of opposition, but sometimes he looks really good, and he looks like he could compete with Canelo. He's got some speed. He's got some boxing ability. He's got a little bit of pop. He'll keep you honest. Will he win? I don't know, but it's not Yildrim. You know what I mean? It's not Yildrim. So that's a real fight. That's a real champion. He's undefeated. And, you know, will it be the Billy Joe that comes in from the Lemieux fight? The slick Billy Joe? The fast Billy Joe? The one who embarrassed Lemieux? Or is it going to be the Chris Eubank Billy Joe? The Willie Monroe Billy Joe? Yikes. That guy shows up, it's a highlight KO. He's got no shot against Canelo. None. But, again, I guess this is the interesting aspect of that fight. We don't know which Billy Joe we're getting. We know what Canelo we're getting. Canelo, we get the same Canelo every fight. Except he's just been getting slightly better and better and better. We're probably seeing peak Canelo. Not probably, we are seeing peak Canelo. But, you know, you get the same dedicated Canelo. The same one. And this is why I remember thinking in my head after that first Golovkin fight, I was like, yeah, I thought Golovkin won.
He's strong, man, good boy, you know, just...
But in that second fight, I'm like, damn, Canelo is probably going to get a little better, and Golovkin's going to get a little older. Speaking of Golovkin getting a little older, there's been some news that he turned down a 2-fight offer against Jamal Charlo, and instead is going to fight either Murata or Munguia next. Now, again, you're going to have some people say, like, oh, what the hell, you know, Charlo's obviously the better fight, and of course it is, but Golovkin's 37, 38. Like, this isn't the Golovkin of 2013 that tore up Gabe Rosado. No, this is a different Golovkin. This is the one who had a real tough fight against Sergey Derevyanchenko. You know, he didn't look good that fight. I actually thought, I don't remember if I had him losing or if I had like a draw, but I remember it was just like, wow, this is not the same fighter anymore. So, of course, you want to, if you're that old, you want to wait out that third Canelo fight. Get paid one more time. Fight Munguia. Munguia's got no defense. He's a powerful kid, but he's going to be eating those Golovkin shots. That's a much easier fight than Charlo. Charlo's explosive, quick, powerful, pop. You know, do you really want to see Golovkin against him now? 2-3 years ago, maybe, but now? I don't think so. I mean, I don't want it for him. I think it's just not a good fight. I'm not saying he necessarily loses to Charlo, but if you're trying to cash yourself out for a third Canelo fight, why would you take the Charlo fight? It makes no sense. Sure, it'll do something for your legacy, but potentially winning a third Golovkin fight, third Canelo fight, will do a lot more for you. And if you really look back at that second Golovkin versus Canelo fight, you know, Golovkin was already past prime, and now he's even more past his prime on the second fight. But, you know, this isn't to talk about Golovkin and Canelo. It's to talk about Billy Joe. So we know what kind of Canelo we're going to get, like I said. We're going to get the well-trained, the Eddie Reynoso Canelo. The slick, powerful Canelo. Which Billy Joe are we getting? Are we getting that slick Tyson Fury style Billy Joe? Are we getting that, you know, Chris Eubank Jr. Billy Joe? The one who looks really poor. The one who you'd never want to see again. Just shut the fuck up, man. Like, was it that one? I don't know. I think it's an intriguing fight. I'll watch it. You know, I got the zone. I'm not going to buy a pay-per-view. I feel sorry for all you guys that bought this Yildrim pay-per-view. Whew. Damn. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know how they can charge you the prices they're charging you with the cards that they're putting up. I mean, holy shit. Zhang was like, okay, I guess, like, he's an up-and-coming 36-year-old, 37-year-old heavyweight. Come on now. Like, and he was embarrassed in that fight. Without those knockdowns, I thought even with those knockdowns, Zhang lost. But without them, whew. And who else was on that card? It was so bad, I was barely watching. I mean, of course, I have it on, but it's bad. This is robbery. You can't charge people this kind of money. I get it, Canelo's a pay-per-view star, but bad. Speaking of pay-per-views, we have Andy Ruiz versus who? Cristobal Areola. Wow. They brought that guy back again. I mean, look, I get it. Like, you know, you can't tell a fighter when to stop fighting, but I thought he was done after that Vitaly Klitschko fight. That was like 12 years ago or something like that. 10 years ago, but no. I mean, his last fight was in 2019 against Konowski. And Konowski, he got knocked out by Helenius. And Areola lost that fight. It wasn't competitive at all. I mean, shit, he been knocked out by Deontay Wilder. Stavern, I think he stopped him. I'm almost sure he stopped him. I mean, they had two fights. I mean, the second one, of course. So, I mean, Cristobal Areola he's old, you know? I don't know what he's doing fighting Ruiz. I don't know what Ruiz's handlers are doing giving him that fight. It's embarrassing. Almost anybody else would be a better fight than Chris Areola. And I'm actually happy for Chris that he took the fight, but you have to worry about the fighter's health here. You have to. And Andy Ruiz, you know, it's a quick little off-topic thing, but I don't care what kind of fat girl angle he takes his pictures at. I learned from that second Joshua fight. Until I see you in the ring without your shirt on, I won't believe any picture, any little snippet video that I see. No. I need to see you with your shirt off in the ring, and then I'll be like, okay, you know. Now, Andy Ruiz should have obviously no problem with Cristobal Areola. None whatsoever. If this was a prime Chris Areola, I think this would probably be a pretty decent fight. You know, because you're going to have Chris coming forward the entire time. Remember, he had no quit in him. He kept coming at Vitaly Klitschko. He took, his face looked like mashed potato, but he kept coming. He was not afraid, and that kind of Areola would put up a good fight against Andy Ruiz. But this Areola of 2021, I don't think so. This fight's going to be a wash. Andy Ruiz is going to walk all over him. And if for some God-unforsaken reason he loses this fight, he's done. His career is done. You know, it'll be it. He'll be mentally broken. No one will take him seriously. It'll be like that time after David Price wound up losing to Tony Thompson. That second time, it was it. Cat was out of the bag. You know, the first time you can say, oh, you know, it's the heavyweights, or in general, you just get caught. It's boxing. It can happen. But when you lose that rematch, when it's that second time, when people see a pattern, that's when you get a label and it sticks. It comes into your mind. You start to believe it yourself, even if it wasn't necessarily true before then. And I think with David Price, you know, you had that happen, and this will happen with Andy Ruiz. If he loses this fight, especially if he comes in there looking a little fat, or, you know, a little fat, he's going to come in there looking a little fat. But if he comes in there looking like a complete slob and gasses and loses or whatever, doesn't look good, that's it. I think this will start to eat away at him. You know, you threw away that Joshua fight, that second one, after throwing like probably the biggest upset since probably like one of the early Klitschko losses, or maybe since like a Lennox Lewis loss at heavyweight. And, you know, you did nothing with it. That second fight was atrocious. So if you come in undertrained, ill-prepared for this fight against Chris Arreola, which is very easy to do. I'm sure you're also thinking, shit, I'm fighting Chris Arreola. Do I need to train? Probably not. Because, you know, Chris probably ain't going to train. Oh, shit. You know, but what if he does? And what if you don't train? Then Andy Ruiz, like, his career will be done. He'll be the American or Mexican-American David Price. You know? Obviously much more accomplished. He became champion, knocked Joshua out, but I don't know. All right, let's move on to Lomachenko. So this week, Lomachenko started barking at Devin Haney. He tweeted at him, he's saying, at real Devin Haney, I'm here. I'm waiting for you cowards to decide on a real fight and not on a Twitter fight. Now, you know, I don't know who the cowards are. Maybe he's talking about the promoter, but shit, I don't know. But you know, this is a real fight. You know, Lomachenko, for all his, well, he doesn't have many flaws, but for some of his flaws, he really wants to fight the best. You know what I mean? Like, he's not afraid. It's obvious. And I think, you know, Devin Haney now is going to have to prove that he's willing to face the challenge. So the same way, it's not going anywhere. But this is something. I think, you know, the young man has been talking a lot of shit to Teofimo, you know, and that's why he's been getting called like the email belt champion or whatever. You know, and you know, he is the weakest of the four horsemen at 135, or at least the least known, right? So this is his shot. You know, Loma is still Loma. You know, yeah, he's getting older. Yeah, he's not, you know, the Lomachenko you saw probably against Gary Russell for sure, because, you know, this weight class, if you're on the wrong side of 30, you're getting older, you're getting worse, you're getting slower. There's no way you can't get better after 30 at these low weight classes. This isn't heavyweight. This isn't even middleweight. You know, you can make the argument that, you know, heavyweight, maybe you're at your peak at like 33 to 35 or so. Not the case down here. Not a lightweight, you know. Lomachenko is past his peak, but he'll be a good test for any of these guys. I mean, hell, if Lomachenko does a little bit more in that first Teofimo fight, or not in the only Teofimo fight, he can easily win it. I think he took 5 of the last 6 rounds or something like that. You know, I had Teofimo winning, but, you know, I saw Andre Ward's scorecard and that looked reasonable. Lomachenko really put it on him in that second half of that fight. If he wins that 12th, who knows what happens? I think I actually have it a draw if he wins that 12th. But, yeah, so, you know, Devin Haney, if he fights Lomachenko, or if he fights, he should fight. But this is a real fight for the young man. And this we'll be able to tell where he's at. Because right now, if you look at 135, you probably got Teofimo and Davis as, like, the big guys. Like, the guys who I think have the highest ceiling. You know, Lomachenko will be up there, but like I said, he's a little too old now. And then you have Ryan Garcia and you have Devin Haney. Well, Garcia just nearly got flattened by Luke Campbell. He's got some work to do. All this talk about Manny Pacquiao, he needs to forget it because he's going to get slept in that fight. That's not happening. And Devin Haney, well, we need to see more of it. He's fast. It looks like he can box. He's got a little bit of power. You know, he's got that nice knockout that he had a few fights ago. I forgot against who, but, you know, he fought Gamboa. Gamboa. He's got to fight someone real, and Lomachenko's a real fighter, even after the loss of Teofimo. The only question would be is, what's his shoulder like? He had shoulder surgery again. Again. I don't know. At this age, with this many miles on Lomachenko, what is a shoulder injury? How bad is that? This isn't a young, fresh fighter who's going to recover quickly. This is 400 fight amateur. Now approaching 15 fights, 16 fights in the pros. This is a long career, and he's a boxer. These are a lot of rounds he's done. This isn't like quick knockouts coming in. Tyson blasting out dudes in the first round for the first half of his career. How many rounds did Tyson do in his first 20 fights? Not many. Lomachenko, had a lot of rounds. So this is going to be an interesting fight. I don't know who I would choose. I hope it gets made. I would think that if Devin Haney's as good as we all hope he is, then he'll probably be a close decision win by Devin Haney. He's not stopping Lomachenko, but it'll be a close decision win. But Lomachenko will test him. What if the shoulder injury really did affect Lomachenko like that in the Teofimo fight, and he just was afraid to throw it in the beginning? Shit. Who knows how that fight looks? So Lomachenko, fully healed, even a little bit older now, can still probably school Haney if Haney's not as good as we hope he is. And we hope he is really good. The dude looks like he's Floyd Mayweather's kid. Shit. But I don't know. Like I said, close fight either way, I think. Unless there's something we're all missing. But I think everyone agrees it's going to be a close fight. So let's move on. Who else are we talking about here? Parker, yes. So he just split with his head trainer, Kevin Barry, right? Now, Parker's one of those heavyweights who I think gets a little bit overrated by some of the people online. He's pretty good. It's without a question. He boxed relatively well against Joshua. Yeah, he nearly stopped Dillian White at the end of that fight. But was that really Parker's doing? Or was that Dillian White being Dillian White? He bad cardio, looks fat, really fat. And Dillian White, usually sometimes he has mental lapses. Look at the Povetkin knockout. So how much of that fight was Joseph Parker? He lost the fight anyway. And the Joshua fight, again, he did well in a snoozer of a fight. And by well, I mean he didn't get knocked out. He still lost that fight as well. It wasn't particularly close. He was competitive, but not particularly close. And I don't know what it is with Parker. I don't think he's got the pop. I think Fa actually even stunned him in that first or second round or something like that. I think, I don't know if this is a trainer issue. Sometimes it is, but I think we kind of see his skill cap. I think it's a skill cap. His aptitude, his potential. We kind of see it. And it's not quite championship level. Yeah, obviously, anything can happen at heavyweight, but he already had a shot against a couple of the top guys, and he couldn't quite pull through. So I don't know if this is going to make a big difference for him. I don't know if this is going to be like a revival of Parker, because where are we reviving to? The guy that lost against the top contenders and the champ? I guess the guy that beat Andy Ruiz by majority decision. But again, this also brings to question Andy Ruiz. He's never looked particularly all that good except for beating Joshua. So maybe beating Andy Ruiz at one point by majority decision is not that big of a deal. And I think that's like his calling card, right? Parker's, that is. I beat Andy Ruiz. Dimitrenko is not a good fighter. He beats Huey Fury, but come on. Huey Fury? So I don't know. I really do like Joseph Parker. I do. I don't know. I think he's a solid top 10 guy, but I don't think he's ever going to be champ. If Povetkin never became a real champ, I think he had like a portion of the belt. And Joseph Parker is significantly worse than Povetkin. I'd like to see him in there against somebody real. Maybe, speaking of which, maybe a little Andy Ruiz. Maybe a rematch is what we all need to see. And I think it could be possible, potentially. Hey, Andy Ruiz beats Cristobal Areola, doesn't get a third fight with Joshua because, he just won't get it. And then maybe we see a rematch with Parker. Yeah? Maybe if Dillian White gets through, Dillian White, if he gets through Povetkin, he's gotta get that Joshua fight. He can't risk losing another fight. Otherwise, back to the bottom with him. Hell, there's not even a guarantee Dillian White even beats Povetkin in the rematch. But that's neither here nor there. For Parker, he needs to fight someone in the top 10. This whole grudge match against Fa, like who's Fa? I mean, these are regional, local guys, but nonetheless, Parker. I think we kind of see what his limit is. I hope he has more to show us. He's a nice guy. Like, I've watched all those funny commercials with him over the pandemic, and every time I've heard him in interviews, he's an awesome dude. Like, I really do wish him the best. I just, when you're analyzing a fighter, you have to see what the fighter's peak is. Like, what can we get? What's the best that we can get out of him? And I think we've seen Parker, and at points he looks like a solid B+ guy, but a lot of times he performs at that like B- level, and this is why he gets wobbled by Fa and why he loses to fighters like Dillian White. And I think that's really maybe even it for Parker. Splitting with Kevin Barry, because what does he not want to leave New Zealand to train? I mean, like, do you want it or do you not? And I think that's a real question for Parker. I think he needs to really evaluate where he's at in his career. There are talks of getting a Chisora fight. A Chisora fight? Why? Why do you want Chisora? What does that fight even do? Like, does anyone take Chisora as a top 10 contender? Maybe number 10, right? Like, all right. And what do we have going on for this weekend? Actually, I think today's Thursday, we got the Sergey Baganchuk fight against Brandon Adams. Sergey's been going around a lot, right? Yeah, I mean, I think he's a pretty good fighter. I'm excited to see where he's at. He needs to fight slightly better competition, and as you see, he is fighting better competition, so we should see his limit, his potential pretty soon. I expect him to win the Brandon Adams fight tonight, but again, we'll see. I'll be watching. What else do we have this weekend? Claressa Shields. Claressa. Okay, here's the thing about fighters. This is true for any sport. Whenever you start talking about a different sport and how you're transitioning, I get worried. Now, I don't think she's going to lose this fight. You never know, because Marie-Eve is undefeated. She's got 17 wins, no losses. I mean, she's got no knockouts, but again, anything can happen. Like, if your goal is to go to MMA, which is what she's saying she wants to do, then she's probably training for MMA, right? But she's having a boxing fight still. It's different footwork, different type of hands are thrown. You got to worry about feet. You're doing different things in MMA. MMA and boxing are not the same sports, like hockey and lacrosse, And it's the same thing you see with Conor McGregor. Keeps talking about boxing instead of training boxing, gets kicked in the leg and loses. Like, train for your sport. Like, if you're having a boxing fight, stop talking MMA. Like, I get it. Claressa Shields thinks that she, is going to go on like Holly Holmes, have this like great MMA career, but who knows? Like, yeah, there is no money in women's boxing. I get it. But you got to pay attention to what you're saying, because you're kind of letting us know your mental state. Talking about MMA nonstop. You have a boxing fight coming up. Worry about the boxing. Now we're going to see. I think she's most obviously going to win tonight. But it's always tonight, over the weekend, tomorrow, I think. But it's one of those things where, like, again, you always have to worry just a little bit when a fighter starts talking about a different sport. Now, I will be excited to see her transition to MMA. I think women's MMA is significantly more interesting than women's boxing. I don't know if it's due to the gloves, or maybe women don't generate enough pop in their hands and are able to do much more with their feet and the smaller gloves. But whatever it is, I wish Claressa Shields the best of luck. She's an amazing fighter without a question, highly talented, and MMA is probably going to be a better fit for her financially, definitely, than boxing will. I just hope she'll find the same success that Holly Holm has. All right, so I think that's going to do it for this episode of The Standing 8. We'll be back maybe next week, maybe later this week, maybe this weekend. I'll see. I'm going to try and do this every week, maybe twice a week. And that's it for us. It's over.
I'm gonna go home and break my wife's hip.
Don't brag about taking my side piece. Don't brag about taking my side piece, though.
I broke my back. Back is broken. Spinal.